The National Desk, America's News, now.
Defining what is a child, a possible landmark case could turn fertility procedures into criminal acts. The question's being asked about what comes next.
The reason we have a lot of people coming in now is that the Republicans in Congress had an opportunity to literally shut down the border 2 weeks ago, and they refused to.
The blame game on the border grows past Capitol Hill. Who now owns the problem, and can Congress fix it? Then, days away from the next primary in South Carolina, Nikki Haley is not giving up and focusing on Super Tuesday. Murder charges filed against 2 adults in the deadly Kansas City Super Bowl parade shooting last Wednesday, with the possibility that there are more to come. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David, and we are following this breaking news out of Kansas City. Jackson County prosecutors say the 2 suspects, identified as Dominic Miller and Lindell Mays, were arguing when Mays pulled out a firearm first, while Miller followed, allegedly firing the shot that ultimately killed local DJ and mother Lisa Lopez Galvin. In total, 23 people were shot in that incident, when others in the group also pulled firearms during the altercation, including those 2 juveniles who were detained last week, arrested on gun-related charges. They remain in custody. Still unclear how those adults were connected, or if they were connected to the juveniles, but we do know the adults are being charged with second-degree murder, among other offenses. Also breaking out of Texas, the body of 11-year-old Audrey Cunningham has been found in the Trinity River. She was last seen at her bus school stop before school on Thursday when she went missing. Officials say they will seek murder charges against Don Stephen McDougal, who is in Polk County Jail right now, arrested over the weekend in an unrelated charge. The world's most harmful cybercrime group has been busted. An international operation led by the UK National Crime Agency and the FBI have taken down a ransomware gang called Lockbit that includes 2 Russian assets. These individuals are charged with targeting more than 2,000 victims worldwide, including in the United States and Britain, and has received more than $120 million in ransomware payments. They will be tried in the United States. Still, the United States and its allies are sharing their concerns about the threat of a cyber attack by China. They met recently in Munich for a security conference where experts warned they are woefully unprepared. The National Desk's Atra El-Nashar explains what they fear could happen.
FBI Director Christopher Wray warning U.S. allies and partners the Chinese Communist Party is putting its entire government behind an effort to undermine global security, rapidly developing cyber tools combined with espionage and election interference to do it.
The cyber threat posed by the Chinese government is massive. China's hacking program is larger than that of every other major nation combined.
China building cyber weapons within critical infrastructure, poised to attack when Beijing decides the time is right.
To cut us off from our water or electricity whenever they want, to take control of our phones or our personal data.
Members of Congress acknowledge the federal, state, and local governments and private companies that run these utilities are not prepared. In a recent op-ed for The Hill, Charles Clancy, Chief Technology Officer at research and development company MITRE, writes, "A 100-foot tsunami is coming, and we're rearranging sandbags on the ground. Should the time come, it would be massively disruptive for everyday Americans." Cornell professor Rick Geddes.
Your cell phone, so that's all now wireless, and so that's connected to towers, connected to satellites. If there were some sort of a cyber attack on that type of infrastructure, there's no backup.
Control systems for water and sewage plants connected to the internet are also vulnerable.
They're stretched, and they just don't have the internal bandwidth to address these cybersecurity threats on their own. So they really need help.
Geddes and other experts say localized training and support are the best defense, so operators can detect and respond to a cyber attack in real time. And time is of the essence. FBI Director Wray says China is using artificial intelligence technology to rapidly improve its hacking operations. Chinese authorities consistently deny these accusations.
And Atra, the Department of Justice recently shared details of an operation to disrupt a China-backed hacking group. What happened there?
It's really amazing what some of these federal officials do behind the scenes that we don't even know about. But we're learning that this state-sponsored hacking group, Chinese state-sponsored, known as Volt Typhoon, infected hundreds of U.S.-based small or home office routers with malware that concealed the origin of the hack. So the DOJ says the hackers were targeting communications, energy, transportation, and water sectors. So the DOJ was able to dismantle this network of compromised routers. And from the documents that the DOJ has disclosed, it looks like much of this effort was focused in Texas. Back to you.
Wow, really incredible how far-reaching the impact really is. Atrel Nashar live in Washington, D.C. Thank you. And nearly the entire population of California is under flood alerts today, affecting more than 50 million people. The latest round of rainfall has soaked the state, causing flooding, road closures, evacuations, and water rescues. Southern California was forecast to see the heaviest downpours today. LA could see its wettest February ever recorded. Online parenting influencers Ruby Franke and her business partner Jody Hildebrandt were both sentenced to 4 consecutive terms of 1 to 15 years in prison, not to exceed a total of 30 years, due to a Utah law limiting prison terms. The final sentence will be decided by a separate board in Utah. Both women pleaded guilty to 4 counts each of aggravated child abuse in December. Embryos are now to be considered children in the state of Alabama. The new law was affirmed by the state Supreme Court and could have sweeping implications on fertility treatments. Critics raised questions of how embryos could be frozen or handled. They say this affects parents or patients' decisions to donate or destroy unused embryos. Courts had previously classified them as property. The lone dissenting opinion of that court wrote that this could end the practice of in vitro fertilization in Alabama. And today, the Supreme Court declined to take up a case focusing on jurors' religious beliefs. A woman sued the Missouri Department of Corrections over alleged discrimination based on her homosexuality. The state lost the case after the judge excluded 3 jurors who said they were conservative Christians. Justice Alito said the case raises really critical issues. The Supreme Court also dismissed appeals today related to several attorneys, including Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, who faced legal sanctions for claiming the 2020 election in Michigan was stolen. We do know as well that the High Court will hear a case next week on the legality of bump stocks, which cause semi-automatic guns to fire as if they were automatic. A majority of Texas voters say they support some of Governor Greg Abbott's high-profile border security initiatives, even as the Department of Justice fights them in court. That's according to new polling from the University of Texas. And the support isn't just from conservatives.
We are seeing the minorities of Democrats, and by minorities, I mean numerical minorities of Democrats that support these tougher measures, increase gradually over time.
That's 2/3 of all voters, Republican or Democrat, who say they support deploying state military, 65% who say they support building border walls, and 60% who want to implement a state-level crime for an undocumented immigrant to be in Texas in most circumstances. Well, on Capitol Hill, there remains no clear plan to secure the southern border, despite both Democrats and Republicans insisting it is a top priority. Instead, the blame game is in full swing. Republicans blaming Democrats for their policies that led to record numbers of migrants coming to the U.S. Democrats blaming Republicans for squashing a plan that sought to fix many of the problems. As national correspondent Christine Frizzell reports, anger is boiling over.
What do we want? We want a secure border, number one.
The fight over border security prompting a new push for a full-fledged impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate, following a narrow vote in the House by Republicans to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Some conservative senators warning Democrats may try to dismiss the trial, asking Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to step in.
They can stand up and say, you cannot refuse to even follow the constitutional process for impeachment. You can't dodge responsibility. That's what Schumer and the Democrats want to do.
Meanwhile, some other Republican senators have called the effort a waste of time, as Mayorkas himself insists he's not worried.
I don't let it distract me from the work.
But the work of overseeing a border with record-breaking numbers of migrants showing up every day is proving to be a dominant issue in the 2024 presidential campaign, with more voters calling it the top issue. The fight in Texas bringing new aggressive actions, including the installation of more razor wire and this announcement last week.
We are building a new Texas Military Department base camp that allows the Texas National Guard to increase and to improve operations in this area.
A brand new UT Texas Politics Project poll finds Texas voters side with their governor's actions, 2/3 in favor of more walls and using the military to help secure the border. The debate over the way forward playing out as 10 former FBI officials have warned of military-aged men from across the globe landing in waves on our soil by the thousands, including the former terrorist screening center director under President Obama.
We'd average 1 or 2 a month, so maximum 12 to 24. I was concerned about those 24 and made sure the FBI was working those cases. Now there's 336.
Both the House and the Senate are on recess this week, so there's no way to know what the next steps in a Mayorkas impeachment might look like. Meanwhile, the House has just released a bipartisan border and foreign aid bill after one failed recently in the Senate. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National Desk.
Christine, thank you. And coming up, what the Biden administration is planning this week in the Middle East as Israel prepares to expand its offensive. Then, American Airlines is raising its fees, how they now compare to the other big airliners in the business. Plus, what a sheriff from Florida realized when he visited the U.S.-Mexico border in a recent trip. We'll tell you on the other side. President Biden's top Mideast advisor expected in Israel and Egypt this week for hostage release talks. Brett McGurk will meet Egyptian officials in Cairo tomorrow and then leaders in Israel on Thursday. It comes as we wait to learn whether a new UN Security Council proposal will be brought to a vote that would call for a temporary ceasefire. That was proposed by the United States. The proposal also warns against Israel's planned offensive in Rafah, which runs the risk of deepening an already dire humanitarian crisis on the ground. To be clear, this is a rival resolution that was proposed. This is different from a separate one the U.S. just vetoed today that called for an immediate and permanent humanitarian ceasefire, the third veto by the U.S. since the war in Gaza began. The U.S. said it blocked that resolution because it believes it would sabotage ongoing hostage release talks. Today's Security Council vote comes as the UN now says 1 in 6 children in northern Gaza are malnourished, according to the UN Children's Agency UNICEF. Groups on the ground saying a ceasefire is required.
I think it is well past the time of practicalities from a humanitarian perspective. It is required for there to be an immediate ceasefire from the lives of tens of thousands of people that I think hang in the balance in terms of a tipping point.
And UNICEF says roughly 90% of children under the age of 2 are facing severe food poverty, and roughly 95% of households in Gaza said they had restricted the amount of food adults received in order to feed their children. And as the war rages on, tensions continue to flare here at home with the surge of disparaging Islamophobic and anti-Semitic rhetoric seen in the United States. New tonight, bond denied for an Indiana man in Fort Wayne, now facing up to 5 years in prison after allegedly threatening to kill every Jew in the city and shoot every pro-Israel U.S. government official. That's according to the Associated Press. Jeffrey Stevens told law enforcement he was drunk when posting the messages online. Given the 41-year-old has a criminal history and a history of alcohol and substance abuse, he will remain jailed pending a trial.
I told you we'd be announcing sanctions on Russia. We'll have a major package announced on Friday.
The U.S. imposing new sanctions on Russia following the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny last week. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirming that today it will be a substantial package. Meanwhile, Navalny's mother demanding President Putin let her properly bury her son's body. Speaking in a new video today. Take a listen.
They won't give me his body. They don't even tell me where he is.
And tonight, yet another extension on the detainment of an American journalist. A Russian court upholding the detention of 32-year-old Evan Gershkovich until at least March 30th. By the end of March, he will have spent more than a year in Russian custody on the allegations of espionage. The U.S. government maintains Gershkovich is wrongfully detained and is not guilty of that. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signaled the possibility of a prisoner swap, but it has yet to materialize. It comes as we learn a 33-year-old resident of Los Angeles has been detained by Russian authorities on suspicion of treason. The unnamed woman has dual Russian-American citizenship. She's accused of raising funds to support Ukraine as it fends off Russia's invasion. The White House says it's working to secure consular access. Treason under Russian law is punishable by up to 20 years behind bars. President Joe Biden is on his way to California right now for a campaign fundraising trip, and he's doing it with roughly $130 million already in savings. His campaign says he's raised $42 million in just the last month. That's a significant advantage over former President Trump and the Republican National Committee, although they haven't technically released their January numbers quite yet.
South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere.
A defiant Nikki Haley. She says she is not dropping out despite polls that show former President Trump is beating her in her own state. A new USA Today poll finds that among those very likely to vote in the primary, Trump leads 63 to 35%. The former South Carolina governor is telling reporters to expect her to stay in the race until after 20 states vote through Super Tuesday on March 5th. American Airlines is hiking its checked baggage fee for the first time since 2018. It's now $35 on most flights if you prepay online, $40 if you do it in person. It used to be $30 either way. The carrier says it's decreasing fees, however, on oversized and heavy bags. But here's a look at how the new American fees compare to other airlines. The Big Four all allow a free carry-on. With Southwest, your first 2 bags are free. Delta and United, they charge $30 for your first bag and $40 for the second when flying domestic. A new study on younger women and breast cancer revealing some pretty alarming results. Medical reporter Liz Bonis breaks down the numbers and shares what specialists say we may need to know about our risks.
Hey there, hello to you. This study found cases of breast cancer have gone up in younger women in recent years, and it specifically looks at some of what may be driving it.
It's very important that people are aware of it and actually listen to their own bodies.
Those living with this illness, such as Santrina Fletcher, the owner here at Kentucky's Derma Lounge, say finding this out could be life-changing and life-saving.
When there's a problem, talk to your provider about it. It's very important to get assessed. Even if it's something ridiculous, it's okay. It's their job to differentiate whether it's something serious or something that's ridiculous.
Researchers in this trial echo that message after the study found women younger than age 50 are being diagnosed with breast cancer at alarming rates recently. As to why?
We actually don't know why, and that's what the researchers wanted to use this information to try to investigate a little bit more.
Dr. Julie Speck, the director of the Breast Cancer Service Line at Ohio's Christ Hospital, says we need to learn more about what's behind these new numbers. As part of the trial, researchers studied 217,000 U.S. women diagnosed with any type of breast cancer between 2000 and 2019. In 2000, the incidence of breast cancer among women ages 20 to 49 was about 64 cases per 100,000. Over the next few years, it stayed about the same until it took a steep jump to nearly 4% per year. This led to 74 cases per 100,000.
When we see this jump, we see that a lot of it seems to be in hormone receptor positive breast cancer. That's breast cancer that seems to respond to estrogen or progesterone. We do know that in the United States, women are having babies later, they're having less children, and they're more likely to be obese. So those factors might be driving the increase in hormone receptor positive breast cancer.
She says the hope is that as we learn more, researchers can reduce this risk in younger women, maybe by changing lifestyle habits or starting screening based on risk factors rather than age. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonis reporting.
Liz, thank you. And coming up, Alabama lawmakers are considering banning lab-grown meat. What people are saying on both sides of the issue. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Alabama, where a bill could ban lab-grown meat.
Jim Miller owns a cow-calf operation in Jefferson County.
I don't know a whole lot about lab-grown meat. It strikes me that something started in a Petri dish is not as wholesome and not as good as beef raised on the farm that we've been raising for thousands of years. We know all about it.
While wary of the new
nutrition of lab-grown meat, Miller doesn't see it as a threat to traditional livestock production.
I don't think that lab-grown meat is going to be embraced by the general population a lot. I think they may find a market.
Upside Foods was given clearance by the FDA and USDA to sell cell-cultivated chicken. The California-based company strongly opposes Senate Bill 23. Bill sponsor, Senator Jack Williams, believes there's not been enough research on the product.
Martin County Sheriff William Snyder spent most of last week on the Arizona-Mexico border at the invitation of local Sheriff Mark Daniels.
Now that I've gone out there and looked at it, I can tell you with absolute certainty, we have a porous border. And we have thousands of people coming across in unguarded areas across the border that don't have asylum claims, that may have criminal past, that may have been deported numerous times before, and they just keep coming at us.
Snyder says that while people are walking across the border, drugs are coming in literally under their feet through tunnels running from Mexico into the U.S.
Lifelong Baltimore resident Ed Marcinko.
I'm getting up in my wonder years.
Has never lived anywhere other than Bank Street and never thought he'd leave.
I want to enjoy them in a crime-free area.
Until now.
It's getting to be like the Wild West here.
Marcinko claiming the bustling location just a few blocks up from the Broadway Market, a Fells Point staple.
We had kids playing 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Doors left unlocked.
No longer feels like the same place he grew up.
Now you're double checking your locks. People want you to have cameras all over the place. We shouldn't live like this.
Coming up, scientists have just discovered what could be the very brightest object in the universe ever found. What it is and what it's like up close. We'll be right back. Imagine an object brighter than the sun hiding right in plain sight. Australian scientists say they've just spotted a quasar powered by the fastest growing black hole ever discovered. This is an artist's rendition of the object that shines 500 trillion times brighter than our sun. It is so bright that if it were in the center of our own Milky Way galaxy, the Milky Way, there would be no night on Earth whatsoever. Can you imagine that? And if you're wondering what it looks like up close, well, scientists say it looks like a gigantic storm cell with a temperature of 10,000 degrees Celsius, lightning everywhere and winds blowing so fast they would go around the Earth in a second. Not super welcoming, so it's a good thing it's 12 billion light years away. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Amira David. Have a wonderful night.